started here in about 20 seconds. Give Tyler a chance to get the YouTube live and start recording. Looks like we have a quorum now. There's
Now, can you see me?
Face.
I'm trying to get on my laptop. It'd be a lot better.
Troy, Palmer, when you're not speaking, can you mute your microphone and turn off your camera so we can see the speakers?
Sure.
All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Are there any announcements that need to be made? I don't have any. Troy?
I do not have any announcements. Thank you.
Okay. Public comments, Penny?
No, I didn't receive anything.
Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes on July 13th last month. Did everybody have the opportunity to review those minutes? Are there
Yes.
any revisions that need to be made?
I make a motion.
We've got a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. And is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right. New items for consideration this month. We've got John Rankin here with us to present on the Kansas Singletrack Society. So when you're ready, John, take it away.
Sounds good. You can all hear me fine, I hope.
Yep.
And do you have a copy of the presentation, or would you like me to share it? I believe it was going to be, there you go. Excellent. So I am John Rankin. I'm president of Kansas Singletrack Society. I want to thank you all for having me here today and letting me talk to you about this, about our proposal at the Canoe launch park on the south side of Wichita. Next slide, please. Kansas Singletrack Society is a group of volunteers in the Wichita, Kansas area. We build and maintain single tracks, tell you a little bit about ourselves, for single track mountain bike trails in South Central Kansas to provide beginner technical natural surface trails. We provide it for mountain biking, hiking, walking, trail running, any human powered outdoor recreation. Next slide, please. Some of the things that we do, we are dedicated to protecting and enhancing single track opportunities through providing enjoyable recreation experiences and social events for the local community. We educate and encourage trail riding and running. We promote responsible single track use and ethical behavior among the community, working with land managers and landowners to improve trails and facilities, working with other groups to ensure a quality trail experience for all users, and to increase the diversity of the single track use community. Next slide, please. And you'll see some examples of some of the trails that we create. In this one, you'll notice that we try to maintain the natural beauty of the land there. We just mow out a couple of feet from the center of the trail so that you're not getting grass on you, which is really the best way of keeping ticks off of you. And we provide a bare trail that's about 18 inches wide, and that's what the definition of a single track is. So it's enough room for one bicycle, one person to hike or bike down. And that's that single use, that single track. Next slide, please. And we provide that in a variety of locations, for a variety of types of soil and area. Next slide, please. We especially like to do it, of course, in trees. And it just really allows you to get out into nature and enjoy yourself, whether it's on a bicycle or any other type of transportation. Of course, our aim is primarily bicycling, but we really enjoy seeing all trail users out. Next slide, please. Times we'll come across a drainage issue that we have to repair, or we have to maintain, we have to create a feature for it to get across that drainage to mitigate that problem. And in this picture, we've got a bridge, but still maintain all of the water drainage through that area. Next slide, please. It's rare that we go across an open field. In this case, the landowner has mowed all of that field, but occasionally we have to. It's a little harder to maintain trail in an area like this because the grass will grow so much in the spring and summer, but we do our best with it. Next slide. And here you see something a little more typical. This is actually out at Fall River, where you've got the old growth trees and weaving through the big boulders and rocks that are out there at Fall River Badger Creek Trails. Next slide. And we do a lot of research when it comes to maintaining trails. In this one, you'll see that we haven't blown leaves off of the trails. Sometimes we want to leave those on when it's just bare dirt, because it prevents something called frost heave in the middle of the winter that can increase erosion and make the trails stay muddy for a longer period of time. But where there's rocks and where there's features, we'll go out and blow the leaves off of that. Or if we just need to do it so that you can find your way out there through the woods. Next slide, please. We do currently maintain 4 trails here in South Central Kansas. Camp Horizon is our largest trail system. It's at Camp Horizon Methodist Church Camp, southeast of Ark City, 9 to 12 miles long, depending on the time of year and what the river's doing for us. It's on the edge of a bluff overlooking the Arkansas River, a really pretty area. It's a tremendous amount of elevation change and rocks. Badger Creek is just a beautiful area along the Badger Creek at Fall River Reservoir. It's on Corps of Engineer land, where Camp Horizon is on private land. This is on Corps of Engineer land. We have 2 trails there, totaling 8 miles. Air Capital Memorial Park. Now that's our one trail system within the city of Wichita you may be familiar with. It's a very popular location. It's only 2 miles long though. So what we're going to talk about today is maybe creating some more trails in Wichita for people to enjoy. And Santa Fe Lake is between Augusta and Andover. And it's actually an Augusta City Park, so we work with the city of Augusta there. We have 7 miles, and it's a very popular location because of that. Next slide, please. So here we see a map of Air Capital Memorial Park. It really is a very popular trail. A lot of people in the area like it a lot, and when you go there on a weekend, you can find a parking lot that can sometimes be just full of cars. And on the weekends, we get a remote controlled car club that uses the trails. They build their own little features and use some of ours and drive their RC cars all around. And we get, of course, young families hiking with kids, as well as beginner mountain bikers and some really hardcore guys that are just really enjoying the features that we built and continue to build for Air Capital Memorial Park. We put a lot of effort into that one, and it's something that we're proud of, and I hope the Parks Department is proud of too here. Next slide. So here's an example of Badger Creek trails. 2 trails, 2 4-mile trails out there, out in nature. It's a really nice area. If you haven't been, I encourage you to go hiking or ride your mountain bike. it's a beautiful little area. Next slide, please. And Camp Horizon is our largest and most complex trail system. And these slides are an example of the maps that we create that help us identify locations that need work, or where to send people if there's a downed tree or there's some maintenance that needs done. We try to create maps like this to put at the trailheads. We've got that out at, a good example of that is out at Badger Creek to help people find their way around. Next slide, please. So what I'm here today is to propose, we want to request permission from all of you to create a single track trail at the Canoe Launch Park, City of Wichita Park. It's at the convergence of the Arkansas River and the Big Ditch, the Wichita Valley floodway. We want to add improvements to the Arkansas River Canoe Launch, building single track trails on the South Arkansas River Greenway property. And this will be for biking, hiking, and trail running purposes. Next slide, please. If you're not familiar with the location, you'll see down at the bottom where the river comes together with the Big Ditch, and there is a large green spot inside of that convergence, inside of the fork of those two rivers. So it's kind of between Wichita, Derby, and Hayesville, down there. Next slide, please. So a little closer in, you'll see that this is all parks land, which then does extend out to the river. Next slide, please. Now, towards the top is the canoe launch, but this shows you how wooded the area is. We do like that. Certainly, it's fun to go through trees, but it also gives that feeling of nature even inside the city. And trees help with maintenance because when you can keep your trail inside of trees, it cuts down on the amount of grass and the amount of weed eating and maintenance that's required to keep those trails up. We plan to do this in several phases. And so the first two phases will be right next to the canoe launch, which you see at the bottom of this satellite photo. You've got the parking lot down there at the bottom of the trees and a concrete path that leads down to the river for launching canoes and kayaks. So the parking is already there. No need to add anything in that regard. And we propose to build at least a mile of trail to the north of that. Next slide. And we've got another about a half a mile to the south of it. And that'll be right around the canoe launch itself. We'll stay inside the trees at that location. And next slide is at the convergence. There's a large area of trees down there. Now, this area is heavily used by ATVs will have to stay away from that because they've cut through the surface dirt into the sandy ground, and it's and so where their trails are, it's very, very sandy. But there are an awful lot of area left over that we can easily put in a couple of miles of trail down in this area. And it's a very underutilized area. Certainly that part of town could use some more, we feel like it could use some more opportunities like this. So I'm excited about that too. In the future, it's possible we might be able to add this fourth phase. It would be a little more challenging to maintain because it goes across some prairie to get to these trees, but it could add another mile of trail. And next slide, please. So what I'm sorry? There's some things that KSS can provide for the trail system. There's some things that we would ask our host to provide, just as you already do at Air Capital Memorial Park. What we provide is an insured workforce, the initial layout on and trail plan, and the build of the trail. We provide the ongoing maintenance, poison ivy and underbrush control. All trail building tools are supplied by KSS. Trail-specific signage, such as bike right, hiking left, for directional signage, things like that, we'll provide. And we do promotion of the trail. It will be listed on national mountain biking websites. It will be listed Kansas Cyclist, our own website. We work with some trail apps so that the trails can be found and so that you can find your way around when you're in the trails. MTB Project and Hiking Project are good examples of that, where you can download those to your phone, and we'll make sure that these trails are on those apps and you can find your way around within the park just with that app. We'll also maintain social media, and it will be listed within our trail guides. Next slide, please. What we ask of you folks, the host, is liability for the riders, road access and parking lots. These things all exist already. Park specific signage to the area, trash collection, site policing, rule enforcement, mowing and maintaining the areas of the park that are not associated with trail maintenance, around the parking lot, things like that. If there's any other trails you want to add into it for walking around. Next slide. So when we got to looking at this and thinking about costs, we came up with an estimated value of what we're providing for design, construction, yearly maintenance, in-kind costs. We think what we're providing to the city is worth at least $16,000. Next slide. Design is valued at about $4,000. That includes visual survey of the site to define the boundaries, find positive and negative control points. Those are things that we either want to include in the trail system or things we want to avoid. Flagging and on-site design layout, location of earth fill if there's any, and signage. Next slide. And construction costs are going to be about $9,800 for us. Build about at least 4 miles of trails, cut through the heavy underbrush, smoothing, tamping, dirt moving, sign creation and installation. We're looking at least 475 man hours compared to other locations. Compared to Santa Fe Lake, it was about that. So that's about what we're looking at here. So we're looking at around $6,800 in labor, and probably spending about $3,000 in rental equipment as well. Yearly maintenance that we spend on a trail like this could be as much as $2,300. And that's, again, rental equipment as well as equipment we own and the man hours that we put into this, which can be considerable. So that's our proposal. And I would love to take any questions that you might have, hear any feedback that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions for John?
Got a couple, if you don't mind. This is Troy Hauptman, Director of Parks.
Yes.
So one of the things that we've been talking to a lot of folks about in regards to our air capital site is a pump track. And would a
Yes.
pump track be something that you could build at this location?
There is a lot of open prairie where a pump track could be placed in here. We get a lot of feedback for that as well, and want to put one in, but it's challenging at air cap. There's not as much land there, and so it's a little tight. So I think that a partnership where we could create a pump track at this location would be a lot easier because there's a lot more land to work with. Pump tracks can be expensive, so we would want to work together on that. But absolutely, this would be a good location for that. Yes, Troy.
Okay. A couple more questions, if you don't mind.
Certainly.
One of the questions that always comes up, especially as of lately, is in regards to ADA access. And what are some of the plans in regards to making this site ADA access? And is there challenges that we need to address and talk about?
That can be a challenge. Entrance and exit to this park would be better than it is at Air Cap, where the parking lot sits up high, and then the grade immediately drops down into a ditch, and that would be harder to negotiate than what we're working with at the canoe launch areas. The canoe launch has got very little elevation change. And admittedly, that's not necessarily what we always look for. We like to find some elevation change, but in the city of Wichita, that's just difficult to get to. The lack of elevation change would be helpful. Another thing that I would say that KSS has long decided on is that we aren't going to chase away Class 1 e-bikes, which are not Class 2 and Class 3 bikes are the ones that are more akin to just an electric motorcycle. A Class 1 e-bike doesn't necessarily go faster than a regular mountain bike. It just has pedal assist. So for people that are having trouble, maybe it's lung problems. I have asthma myself. Maybe it's lung problems, maybe it's knee problems, leg problems, then that would help you enjoy the sport. Width of the trail could be a challenge, but something we work with at Santa Fe Lake is to keep the trail wide enough so that mowers can get through it, and that could help with ADA access as well. It might be something where we would want to get together with you and just walk through it. Something we try to do when we have a feature, whether that's jumps or a log roll or something like that, is to maintain a side path for the kids, for new people, for hikers, so that you can easily get around those features. And I think that maintaining that type of thing would help a lot.
Okay, just a couple more questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So it's a little bit out there, and there's not really much out there, and the question always comes up in regards to restrooms.
Yes.
What would be our options and plans to address some of those questions?
That's an issue for Air Cap as well, and we'd love to have restrooms at either location. Air Cap, of course, we'd like to have it there because that's where our trail and the Prairie Sunset Trail comes together. So it's a great place to add some restrooms. At this location, at Canoe Launch, well, we've got the Canoe Launch, plus we would be adding this, which might, raise the need and merit the addition of some restrooms. Short of that, I'll say that what Santa Fe Lake does is they have porta potties throughout that they just maintain and have emptied on a regular basis. There is no such facility at Badger Creek Trails at Fall River. You're a long ways. You're a couple miles from campgrounds there, and there are no facilities at that location. It is more remote. And Camp Horizon does have restrooms nearby. Yeah, it would be really good to have restrooms, especially if we add a pump track, because if we did that, I think we would both want a more advanced pump track and a more beginner pump track that kids would like. And if we're going to have kids there, the parents are going to want to have restrooms for the kids.
All right, so a couple more questions. I keep saying a couple more because they just keep popping in my head as we're talking.
Absolutely.
And thinking
Yes.
this through. You had mentioned in regards to the ATV usage out there in the trails, which is a huge, frustrating issue for us. And that was one of the things that we like about this, is that we would add some different kinds of activities to maybe discourage the ATVs from hanging out there. But what's happening is that there's a huge environmental impact with the ATVs out there.
Yes.
So this is a two-part question. How would we be able to set this up so we can persuade the ATVs not to use this, and what kind of environmental impacts would we see by using this property?
So I think we had a positive impact at Air Capital Memorial Park by cutting trail into there. As we built that trail, we found a lot of areas inside the middle of the park where there were, you could tell, obvious campsites. And in looking at Canoe Launch, we've seen campsites there. At Air Cap, there were places where there was maybe a fire pit with paraphernalia around it. I was stopped by a police officer during the build, and I was working with my head down, and I looked up, and he was standing up on top of the railroad tracks, and he motioned me over, and he asked me what we were doing, as he wasn't aware of it. We told him what we were up to, and when he learned of that, he was actually really happy, because he said, he told me that a girl had been drug into there and assaulted some years back. And he was very happy to learn that we were going to be putting usage to that park so it would cut down on any type of activity like that. That made me feel pretty good about what we were doing. And since we've gotten in there, I think that there's no way around the fact that, we've cut down on any of that type of activity, because the usage has just gone through the roof. There's people out all the time. So at Canoe Launch, there's going to be people out there all the time. They'll, of course, complain about ATVs tearing up trails. So there's that. And they'll complain to the right people. With proper signage, with increased signage, we can work on that. We can build features in ways that would deter it. Now, if it's just a dirt feature, then it will be treated. It could be treated as a feature for them as well, certainly. But we can do some wooden features that would get in the way, that would be harder for them to use. We can build a wooden bridge across sandy areas that they've created so that it would deter their use. We can create pinch points, perhaps, that would narrow the trail down so it would be harder to get in. It would be a challenge. It will be a challenge overall, though. They've been there for a long time, obviously. It does create an environmental problem. As I described, the topsoil has been cut through to the sand below. And as Kansans, we know once that topsoil is gone, it's hard to get back. So it would be a challenge to repair that. But we can avoid those areas to help the land heal itself. When it comes to preventing future erosion, we've invested in books and classes on how to properly build trails. We have had the International Mountain Bike Association come and give classes in this area for KSS on how to build trails. A great example of that, of course, the best example of that is going to be out at Fall River, where we rarely have to do erosion repairs to the trail out there because it is built so well. The rocks help, but the angle of the trails, the direction of the trails, the switchbacks are all about erosion maintenance and mitigation and prevention. When we build trails, that's what we're after. When we try to prevent rogue trails at Air Cap, when we try to destroy rogue trails at Air Cap, what we're trying to do is prevent those rogue trails that go straight up and down an embankment from creating erosion and tearing into that embankment. It's something that we're very aware of and that we try to stay up on as far as what the latest proper designs are and techniques are. So there, as you get down into that lower area, that triangle right at the convergence, there is some elevation change down in there, and we would be very careful about that. Perhaps adding dirt rather than cutting into the dirt to create trail beds, and doing that in a way that directs the water at angles that don't create erosion. And there is a lot of documentation on how to do that is very helpful. And like I say, we can, at Air Cap, we created a ladder bridge that's maybe 6 inches tall that goes over areas that stay muddy a lot. And we can do that over sandy areas, things like that, or to prevent tearing into the trail in places down at Canoe Launch. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. I think we would definitely need to get a lot more details together on this if we were going to go forward with this. My last question, I see Dale has a question, but I'm going to ask this one really quick because it's in regard to the current usage right now. We have archers out there that actually use this property. How would we manage this land to work together with the archers to make sure that they don't get displaced, make sure that they're still being able to use the area in a safe manner, making sure that arrows don't go in the wrong places?
Right. So, the archers were there first, and we're aware that they are there. And I am aware of the challenges that occurred when Air Cap was created. We have no desire to displace the archers. When we looked at this, we noticed that the archers primarily are shooting north to south, and there is a dike there. If we go back to and it's kind of hard to see in the pictures, in the satellite photos, but if we go up back to those, you can see that there's a road that goes on top of a dike. That dike is between phases 1, 2, and 3 and where the archers are. Phase 4 is further to the north. Our primary concern is fighting the grass up there. But because it's north of the archers, we would want to watch out for that. However, there is, although that's all parkland, right in the middle of the parkland, there's a house. And the house is actually between phase 4 and where the archers are. So if the archers aren't a problem for the house, if they aren't a danger there, then we don't think they'll be a danger for the phase 4 portion. There's a phase 5 portion that we could talk about some years down the road that's near the archers, but we wouldn't get into that without walking through it with the archers to see if there would be any issues. And if there are, safety goes first.
Great. Thanks for answering all my questions.
Dale, did you have a question?
I do. First, I want to thank you for your presentation. During the pandemic, my wife and I have walked a lot of parks we didn't know exist, including Air Capital, which is a wonderful facility. I appreciate what you've done to make those available. And as we go forward, these are the kind of activities that are useful for people, turn my camera on, and are very vital to going forward. That said, this is a lot of time spent on an issue which we knew nothing about. This is a process question for Mr. Hauptman and Mr. Fonstock. I'd like to hope that in the future, these kind of things get vetted with the department in the fashion they get these questions answered. It's really not a policy issue here that is in front of the park board. I certainly want to be informed of this when it comes forward, but this is a discovery phase that's taken a lot of time. We have some big issues going forward. And thank you, sir, for your dedication to what you do and your depth of knowledge. This isn't a reflection on what you brought to the table here, but as a park board, I just wish we would be a little more selective on how we spend our time.
Well, Dale, I just wanted to add that it was requested that this be placed on the agenda. I think last month everybody agreed that this would be placed on the agenda. I think it's important for everybody on the park board to understand a lot of the technical aspects of what's going on in our parks. So maybe it is beneficial, maybe it is a little bit long-winded, but I think it's really good information.
I guess I would just add that I welcome a new conversation periodically. We often get bogged down in the same conversation. So to see a new exciting project happening within the city, yeah, I understand maybe some of these things could be summarized and we give someone sort of a 15-minute window or whatever that is. But personally, I'm glad to have a diversity of conversation and subject matter for a change. So again, thank you very much for your presentation. It's been very enlightening. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time, and I apologize if I've taken up too much of your time. I do get a little long-winded.
Not to worry, John. Thank you again. We appreciate it. If there's no more questions from the board for John, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Okay, see none. Thank you very much, Mr. Rankin. We
before you
certainly
leave,
appreciate it.
Before you leave, I just wanted to make sure that the board was supportive of this and kind of gauge their thoughts on this. Definitely, as an organization from the Parks and Recreation Department, we've been very successful with Air Capital, and we think this is a great opportunity as well. So if there's support from the park board, I would like to have continued discussion with John to see what we can do to start some phases, but also kind of just do some research and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Are you looking for a motion and a vote, Troy, or?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because then we would know that we have that solid support from the park board and we can go ahead and start moving forward.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second
Hey,
it.
did you hear me?
Yeah, we've got a motion and a second from Alejo. Any further discussion on this topic?
Yes, this is Hoyt. I'd like to see John's email address put into the minutes of the meeting so we could contact him and follow up.
Okay. Is that something we can do, Mr. Hauptman, Ms. Garding?
With John's permission, I'm sure we can.
Certainly, that absolutely, you've got my permission for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any further discussion? You've got a motion and a second on the table. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks again, Mr. Rankin. We certainly appreciate your time, and we love to see new diverse conversations brought to us. So we appreciate you and look forward to a continued partnership in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much.
That's exactly right. The partnerships are what makes everything happen. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will move forward. I don't see anything under continuation of prior business. So we can sneak into the recreation update with Reggie.
All right, well, thanks. I'm going to give a brief overview of some of the activity that we had going on for the month of July. Next slide. So I want to give a brief overview, and Troy's going to get into this a little bit more in the aquatics update. But we did go into the phase 2 design plans for Harvest and Municipal, as well as the Linwood splash pad, and they're 95% complete. Design team is working hard to complete the designs for phase 2 of the aquatics master plan and could be taken out for bid. So we are moving along with that. With the pool closure this summer, we were able to get some of those other projects moving along pretty quickly. The phase 1 projects are progressing on schedule. Edgemoor, Boston, and Evergreen pools have been filled in. The concrete decking has been removed for both Ailey, McAdams, and Orchard Pool, and the ground piping is scheduled to be installed in the coming weeks. So getting a lot of good progress moving forward on those facilities with the pools being closed this summer. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we did this summer at Edgemoor Rec Center. As you guys know, that we did reduce some of our numbers for the summer camp with everything going on with the safety precautions that we had. But we did have 5 weeks of camp that was there. We did some things a little bit differently this year with, instead of going out for as many field trips, we brought in presenters on site for the kids to actually have there at their locations. We were roughly at about 36 people for each of those sites each week. Out of a 45 capacity that we had for that particular location, and that was the same for all 6 of the sites that we had. So one of the things that we did this year as part of kind of a grand finale for the summer camp, we were able to partner with the Boy Scouts this year to do an awareness camp that spotlighted working with first responders and our law enforcement, and as well as with our police and fire, to have them come out and actually lead activities over a 2-day time frame. We did archery there, we did kayaking, had a dunk tank, and we actually worked in conjunction with Freddy's Frozen Custard that provided the meals on site there. They also covered our transportation for our 3 summer of discovery camps to come on site for that. And at the end, we had a big reveal for those same counselors that were working with the kids in their groups, came out in their first responders, the police uniforms, and revealed who they were. So that was an opportunity with everything going on in the current environment to have some hands-on experience working with some of those individuals and know what they do in the community. So lastly, at Orchard, we did have some increased play with our pickleball there. It's continued to grow. We did more of the classes inside and be able to beat some of the heat for the summer to be able to do those things with opening up our facilities to use during that time frame with some of our safety precautions that we implemented. So Great Plains Nature Center was busy this summer as well. We had some youth volunteers that had an opportunity to go out on site and learn about the Nature Center. They also did some cleaning projects there on site with picking up debris and trash around the area, and had opportunity to work hands-on with the staff there, learning more about what the Nature Center does and some of the programs that we offer there on site. And we're looking to expand some of those programs in the future to continue to have a good working relationship with students in the community, the schools, as well as expanding some of those programs over to the Wildlife Center over at Riverside Park as well. So we did have an opportunity for our director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, as well as our Senator Moran, did a tour of the Nature Center on July the 17th. Had an opportunity to kind of learn about the unique partnership that we have there with the city, the county, and the state with offering programs. And they were really impressed with some of the things that we're doing there and want to see what they can do to continue to help support that moving forward. And one thing they did a little bit different this year, the Friends of the Great Plains Nature Center normally has a annual fundraiser event that they do on site to raise awareness about the Nature Center and programs that we offer. They took that online this year to do it virtually. Had 30 members that met online and did a paint together while apart, and had several members that were there that had a great time and got a lot of good feedback on that. So, during the current time frames, we're looking at some creative ways to always continue to keep people engaged in what we do and learn about the services that we provide. So this was one of those opportunities to do that. And mentioned a little bit earlier about the summer camp and as well as the awareness camp that we did with the Boy Scouts. And this is a picture of that and Frozen Custard and some of those kids that were out there that participated in the program. So you'll notice that the adults leaders there are wearing their mask, and there are some of our first responders here in the community that volunteered to make sure that the kids had a great time. And we're looking forward to how we can expand that in the future, as well as looking at potentially starting some scouting in the parks program so we can get over into some of our populations in the community that doesn't have as much presence with scouting, and getting kids engaged in some of those programs in there at the local rec centers. So that's sort of a pretty overview of some of the things that we did during this summer. Looking forward to the fall, and our fall guide, as we mentioned last year, is coming out, and that's available online to view. And we're doing that in current time is making it only digital, so that once we make changes based on how things are going with our programming, we can update it where the community have access to the most recent information. So I'll open it up. If you guys have any questions about anything, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Any questions for Reggie? Okay. Reggie, we certainly appreciate all that you do, adapting in this new climate, making it safe for our community to enjoy the awesome programs that we offer. So I just want you to know that we appreciate you, being cognizant of everything going on. So keep up the good work, and thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. There's nothing else for Reggie. We will move into the golf update with Troy Hendricks.
Thanks, Eddie. We'll start off the rounds update to begin with. At the end of July, we're down 7% year to date in rounds. If you recall, at the end of April, when we only had 2 courses open and we're walking, we were down 31% in rounds. And at the end of June, we were down 17%. So we made up some rounds in the month of July versus last year. We're actually up 4,673 rounds of golf at our 4 golf courses. Our memberships continue to be increasing. We have a total of 1,051 memberships. The breakdown of that is we have 134 adult memberships, 101 couples memberships, 69 juniors, 619 seniors, and 128 young adult memberships. Total revenue for the 4 courses in comparison to last year is up about $63,000. When we look at comparisons for greens fees, when you look at your straight greens fees from each facility, we are down about $9,000 in greens fees, but when we add in the membership fees that come in on a monthly basis and prorate that out over the golf courses, that total was about $70,645. So that made us an increase in greens fee revenue overall for 21%. Sim would be up 19%. Auburn Hills is up 17%. Texas Consolver is up 13%. The interesting one is McDonald. McDonald was up $9,000 without the adjustment coming from membership fees. So they're up 42% in revenue on greens fee wise. And then when we look at concession sales, our total division wide, our concession sales are up 13%. And McDonald leads the way there as well. They're up 43% in sales, followed by Sim at 16%. Tex Consolver is at 9%, and Auburn Hills basically breaks even. Our cart revenue is up for the month of July. We're up 37% in cart revenue from $122,000 to $167,000. Sim is up 32%, Auburn Hills 31%, Tex Consolver is up 34%, and McDonald is up 62% in cart revenues. We are still currently purchasing on a weekly basis some batteries to replace some of those that we need to replace in the electric carts at McDonald. Driving range wise, with the 2 ranges that we had to compare to last year, Auburn Hills is up 22%, Tex Consolver is up 34%. Just on those 2 ranges, we would then be up about 28% for the year, or I mean for the month of July. When we add in McDonald, we're up 65% in driving range revenues. Mr. Goder mentioned last meeting the First Tee and their golf-a-thon, which they raised close to $20,000 for Kids Play Free, and which last year in 2019 they spent $14,000 of what they raised with us in that program. When we looked at what was our contribution to them this year, because they played on a Friday here in July, I took the 6 weeks that preceded that event, which also had one Friday, which was a rain out that we didn't do, but about $880 worth of business at MAC that day, and averaged it out to $4,213 is what we would average on a normal Friday. And on that Friday of their event, we brought in $1,223. A lot of it was food and beverage from their participants that were playing. And then we also had some people that we were able to get out on the golf course after they were done playing that evening. So our donation, I guess you could say, to the First Tee was $2,990 in lost revenue for that purpose. After the meeting last month, I did go visit with Alan Clark, the director of First Tee, ask him what I messed up on and not promoting this event for them. And I also visited with Corey Novascone, who's their program director, and I said, hey, I must have missed the boat. What did we screw up on? And their reply to me was, you didn't do anything because we didn't ask you to do any promotion of this event for us. So I wanted to make sure that we hadn't dropped the ball on our end. And I guess we hadn't because they didn't ask us to help them with anything. So that would be all I have in the way of updates, Eddie.
Thanks, Troy. Are there any questions?
Can I ask something, Eddie?
Yeah, go ahead, Alejo.
Hey, Troy. I wanted to thank you for doing that and following up with First Tee on that. Obviously, they're partners of ours, but one thing that I wanted to also add is that, I'm going to assume that there's a lot of other organizations, other nonprofits that have fundraisers at our golf courses. Is that a safe assumption to say?
There are a number that do, yes.
And we don't promote any.
This year, it's pretty much not.
Sure, but in a traditional year, right, not COVID related, we have dozens and dozens of fundraisers that happen at our golf courses, correct?
Yes.
And we don't promote any other fundraisers we don't do any promotion for those fundraisers, but they still spend money at our courses.
Yes, they do.
I guess the point I'm trying to make.
We give them the option if they want to. We will help them out in promoting stuff if they need players.
And they know that from the beginning, right? That's an option.
Our golf professionals have been instructed to tell them that.
I guess I say that, Troy, because I'm being on the Parks Board and representing District 1 and having MAC in our district. I think that there's better uses for your expertise than promoting fundraisers. So I'm not knocking you for that. I think that's really responsible. You responded to an issue that was brought up at the Park Board meeting, at the last meeting. But if we're asking you, who's heading our park department, our golfing department, to go out and reach out to every nonprofit that has a fundraiser at our course to help promote it, I am going to assume that would take up the majority of your time on a normal year with the number of fundraisers that happen at our golf courses. And so I thank you for what you did in responding to the issue that was brought up at the last Park Board meeting. But I would hate for us to put a precedent where our director of golf is going out and fundraising for other organizations, because what that just sets, I think, a bad precedent where it opens it up for any nonprofit to say, hey, we have a fundraiser too, and we're thinking about using your golf course. Can you promote it for us? And I think, like I said, that your expertise is better suited to help run the courses instead of helping to raise money for other nonprofits. So I thank you for your time and for your expertise and for responding to the board. But I just wanted to add that, and I apologize for not adding at the last meeting, but I think your expertise is better suited helping to run courses.
No, thank you. The only other group that we do a significant amount of work with is the Wichita Junior Golf Foundation, which is also a nonprofit group. They utilize all 4 of our golf courses. And when I look at, in comparison, they spent at our 4 courses in 2019 right at $25,000, with $11,000 of that being in junior golf greens fees, and then the other $14,000 in supporting our golf professionals as instructors to teach their lessons for them. So they have reached out to us, and we do some marketing for them. We send out email blasts, as we have also done for First Tee. We copy them in on email blasts. We have their links on our website, as well as we have the Junior Golf Foundations. So,
but they know that they can reach out, I guess is what I'm saying. Like this isn't something that it's like a one-off thing, right? I mean, this is something that's made known to them, that if they're using our courses, they have the opportunity to have their fundraisers shown or communicated via our channels. And it isn't something that you have to go do every month, basically, correct?
No, it's not.
Yeah. No, that was all I was trying to say, is that I think that that's great that you did that. I think it's important to maintain relationships with these partners, but I just feel that your expertise is better suited on making sure that running those courses, as opposed to raising dollars for other organizations.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you, Troy. I really do appreciate you. I think you're doing an exceptional job running our courses.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Alejo. I would agree with that in some sense. However, I would say if the organization's main goal or mission, if you will, is to promote the game of golf, especially at the junior golf level, I think we should do whatever we can to help them out. I don't know if that's something that we put in a bylaw somewhere or whatever, but certainly I think we can, whether it's Troy or Rowan or our golf professionals, I think we need to have flyers up in the pro shops, blasted out on Facebook, social media, etc. I don't know how many partners we work with other than the Wichita Junior League or Junior Golf Foundation and the First Tee. But if there are others that promote the game of golf, that's their sole mission, then I think we can make an exception with helping them out. So I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but that would be my recommendation.
I agree with you, Eddie. I just don't want us to, I would hate for Troy to be spending time with to be pulled into other directions.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I totally get it. I don't want him running a goose chase around 50 other, charity golf tournaments that aren't focused on promoting the game of golf at the junior level. But totally understand where you're coming from, Alejo.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make one distinction, Alejo, to your comments. The marathon, every dollar raised by that event goes back into the Wichita Golf Division Fund. That's hugely different from every other fundraiser, every other nonprofit that are raising money for lots of notable causes. In this instance, this event directly benefits the finances of the Golf Division. And if we don't spend time promoting that, we're cutting off our own resource. That doesn't make much sense. I just want to make that distinction. I understand what you're saying about spreading the talents and energies of the department wherever, but in this case, this is a uniquely different event in that it benefits the Golf Division. 100% of every dollar raised goes to pay for green fees for youngsters who are playing at our courses. That's different than from some March of Dimes marathon or whatever. This is different. I'd hope you'd appreciate that our interest in having the golf division support that event was to that end, that it benefits the golf division and public golf in general. So please acknowledge that.
Oh, I do, Dale. I'm not saying it doesn't. I mean, to Troy's point, I mean, he spoke with them, and they didn't necessarily go explicitly say they wanted that. And I guess what I'm saying is his role, I mean, his job is to run those courses, and I would hate for him to add another thing to his to-do list to make sure that that nonprofits, regardless of what their mission is, that they're that he's helping with those fundraisers. All I'm saying is if they ask for help, there's already mechanisms in place for them to receive the help. If they didn't ask for help, I don't know that we should knock him for not necessarily promoting an event that they didn't necessarily ask for their promotion. I understand that the mission of their of First Tee directly impacts, youth golf, and I think that's a very humble and a very important mission as it pertains to the sustainability of our program here in the city of Wichita, but also for the future of golf, throughout the region. I think it's really, really important. But again, all I'm saying is I don't want Troy to be running on a goose chase every month, trying to promote other fundraisers. I would expect that his expertise is better suited running our courses.
And I would just counter that. I would expect Troy to put his efforts behind activities such as this that directly benefit the finances of the golf division, which is $500,000 in the hole. So when you talk about priorities of what the golf division manager does, I hope that he would look at that field and see the opportunities that most directly impact and benefit the finances of our golf division. And it's not a case of him chasing every fundraiser in the world. This is a very focused, singular, targeted event. And it was, and the promotion of it was not as aggressive as it might have been. I understand First Tee's not going to come and tell Troy Hendricks that he screwed up. They're not going to do that. That's for people like us to look at the big picture and try to help improve that situation going forward.
Okay. Any further conversation or questions for Troy?
I've got some questions about the golf budget that's in the 2021. I don't know what context that should be presented in. Do you want to talk about those now? Are we going to have a budget discussion at all during this meeting?
Troy, would you like to go over those numbers for Dale real quick?
No, I just have some questions. Looking at the 2021 budget published, and there's things I just don't quite understand that there may be a good answer for. One of them was the goods for resale budget line item that showed in 2020 there was $54,924. It's budgeted at $162 for 2021. It was about $160,000 in 19. Why was that number so low in 2019 on the goods for resale?
The goods that are for resale are the food and beverage that our golf professionals buy to sell. And if their sales were down and their purchases were down, then that number would have been lower that year. And so budget just bases on kind of the trends, and that's what they looked at for 2020, and they're hoping that it will increase in 2021. So that's why they've increased it.
What happened in 2020 that would be $100,000 below the previous year, and the expectation that the following year will be up $100,000?
We didn't have any food and beverage business from basically the middle of March through the end of June this year.
Okay. I have a question on McDonald's water supply. I know there was an item, I think it's my understanding that McDonald had to buy city water to supplement its irrigation this past year. And is that factored into the upcoming budget in addition to any improvements in that water supply?
We purchase water every year when we need to based on the rainfall and our storage capacity at the golf course. And when we don't have the storage capacity, then we do have to purchase it. We've been purchasing water already this year because the storage capacity isn't there, and it's part of it's the rainfall. So yeah, that's included in our budget numbers.
I don't, in the published budget, I don't see that. Where is that line item in the budget?
It's going to be under, it will be under golf course maintenance, and then it's under contractuals, which is and it would be under water utilities.
How much more are we budgeting for McDonald this coming year?
We're probably budgeting $30,000, which is what we've budgeted the last couple of years. Based on if we have our normal rainfalls, and if they fall well, then that should be about the same amount of money.
And the equipment fund, I also don't, looking at the budget published, I don't see the equipment fund separated out. Is that a part of general revenues? Is there a?
That is a separate OCA that they're putting that money into. I don't know why it's not in the budget book, but it's not, I guess. I haven't seen that in there. But that equipment replacement fund is a separate OCA, kind of like each one of the golf course has their own. Admin has one, and that one has its own.
But everything in the golf division is in the golf division budget, correct?
It should be. I'll check into that.
So, Troy, if I may, this is Emma. So the accounting system set up for the replacement funds is falling under capital projects. I don't know if there's 100% perfect reason for it, besides just tracking separately, always has been. I think if you go to capital projects, it should be under there. And if I don't see it, I will send you a separate line balance to you as of now, or as of month of July, see how much we have. But you're right. You're right. It's not under general funds for golf. It's under capital projects.
So the equipment fund for the golf division is not in the golf division budget?
It is, but our budget books is a little differently than other companies, I guess. But so golf budget has a general funds budget, which is you see on the typical page. We talk about contractual, personnel, whatnot. But the replacement funds, accounting finance department decided to put it under capital projects. And there's a reason for it originally, because it was tracked separately than general funds. We don't want to touch it every year. It goes over. Versus general funds, we empty it out every year. That's why the original reason why it was tracked separately, and it's been kept that way. That's the best way I can explain it. But yes and no. It's under golf, but it's not under golf general funds, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm looking at the 2021 proposed budget, the general fund.
Yeah.
Does it fall under one of those categories?
No, it's under capital projects. So I think it's called CIP, capital improvement projects. It's towards the very bottom of that page. I can send you a link to it, and then that way we can look at it every month.
It's under capital outlay?
It's capital improvement projects. It's an entirely different book. It's an entirely different PDF file. If you go to the wichita.gov, you have different options. One of them is, budgets, whatnot for general funds. And there is a single item that says capital improvement projects budget, and it falls under there.
Is there a breakdown available for that? And can we all get it every month?
Yeah, that we can do for sure. I will send out the July one tomorrow.
I guess I still don't understand. The total budget for the golf division for 2021 is set at, as I scroll down, I think 4.02 million. And the
Which
equipment fund is part
separately.
of that?
No, it's not. It's separate. It's tracked separately. And like I said, the reason is mainly because, general funds or golf funds usually it empties out every year. Either there's surplus or there's a deficit, whatnot, but we don't, because the old accounting system, we don't want it to just disappear. We want track replacement funds and use it and roll over every year. That's why it has been tracked through projects, under capital projects, and this has always been done. I can talk to the finance department and see, hey, we think it makes more sense if you can put it under golf instead for future years. But as of now, that's how the accounting system is tracking it. If that helps answer the question.
Well, it doesn't seem to be a logical thing that the equipment fund, which is a very fundamental part of the operation of the golf division, wouldn't be in its budget.
Yeah, that's fair. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but I can, do relate information to the finance department and see if they can pull it under golf. I think the new ERP system might be able to do that. But yeah, that's a good point. I can definitely bring it up to the finance department, see what they can do. Okay,
so the total budget for 2021 is 4.336 million. Yeah. So there would be a capital area equipment fund in addition to that would add to that amount?
Correct. You're correct. It's not significantly, but you're right. It's a separate item. I will give you a balance to additional to.
And is that appropriated separately as well? I mean, in the expense side, it doesn't show up in the expense side then either, does it?
No, it just, the entire item is away from the general funds you're looking at. Is tracking revenue and expense separately on a project level. But like I said, I get your point. It does seem a little bit, confusing. Why is somewhere else? It was due to system limitation in the past, but we can definitely challenge it and see, hey, can we move it over here in the golf? It's more clear, it makes more sense. But as of now, it's not. So that's the best answer I have right now. Sorry.
Well, I guess my question for Mr. Hendricks then is, how is our equipment fund matching up with our needs for, I know there are some significant capital needs, air conditioners, irrigation systems. Is that line itemed and budgeted? How we're going to do that?
We asked the superintendents to look at what they need in the way of equipment that they have that's completely breaking down. And we've used that last year in 2019. We spent about $110,000 of that equipment replacement fund to buy about $250,000 worth of equipment that was coming off lease. And they've got, I've asked them to start looking at what equipment's coming off lease that they might need to replace. And do those things with. Now, some of the things that you're talking about would be probably more of a bond issue when you're talking about replacing and upgrading irrigation systems. But those things are something that we would have to go to council to be able to do the bonding, to be able to do that, and then be able to pay those bonds back.
Would it be possible for the next park board meeting to have a report of the equipment fund, including I assume it's been a negative impact from the new membership program because of that, they're not paying that green fee surcharge that we were before. Could we get an analysis of how that equipment fund has been affected by the member program, and then also a line item description of what that particular budget is going forward?
Yeah, I've asked the superintendents to start thinking of what they need and to find out what's coming off lease from through Toro and also through Jacobson, which is the Kansas Golf and Turf, to see what they have that's coming off lease, because we can usually buy it much cheaper after a 3-year lease than we can outright. I think last time when we bought some of the large mowers that we bought them for about $22,000 to $23,000, but they'd been used for 3 years. Where if you were to have bought it new, it would be $55,000 to $60,000. So that's what we've been looking into. So yeah, I can check into that.
What is our balance right now?
I don't have that.
Okay. It just seems that as an enterprise fund, and we're the administrators of this enterprise fund, it's essential that we know this particular thing. Equipment and maintenance is a huge deal. And that reflects on our quality of our golf courses.
Last time
We
I
need to
checked, I believe we were at
anticipate
100, at the end, at year end, we were at $117,000, I believe, was in the fund.
So going forward, next month, you provide where that money comes from, how it's affected by the membership of the new member fee, what the expectations of that fund balance will be for this year and next year?
I can give you some numbers, yes.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for Troy?
I had one more question about volunteers. I've noticed it seems like there are fewer volunteers. Are we changed our volunteer policy? The golf courses are, I mean, these poor pros are working their butts off, as are the maintenance crews, and they're doing a wonderful job. These courses are in tremendous shape given the resources that they've been given. What is our policy and our practice in soliciting volunteer help to help keep these courses in the condition they are and to help ease the load on the existing staff?
In the past, when we visited with HR in regards to volunteers, there's a difference in volunteers and working at the golf course and being out there picking range balls and getting hit with a golf ball. Or whether it's a volunteer that's the Boy Scouts that have volunteered to pick up trash along the river. We're talking about two different types of volunteers. We really haven't, the problem we ran into in looking at it with HR was that we are still responsible for work comp on people if they get hurt while they're volunteering for us. And so their feedback to us was we'd better off to hire people rather than have volunteers. And I agree, we've had some issues with staffing this year because we had a hiring freeze that was put in place. The 1st of June, we had to go to the city manager for the whole department wide, whether it was for forestry and recreation and golf, and make a list of, this is how many people that we believe we're going to need to operate for this year. We asked our golf professionals, how many more people do you need? We asked our superintendents, how many more people do you need? And then we went and asked for those positions to be opened up, which we were given X number of positions. Those positions then, when people apply for those jobs, those people that apply, that information goes directly to the superintendent so they can evaluate their applications. It also goes to the golf professionals so they can evaluate their applications. They can then do interviews with them, and then they can process them through for Rowan to be able to get them hired in. So all that information goes to our staff out there at the golf courses to move forward with that. And when they have positions that somebody that's leaving to go back to school, there's things that we have to have from them in the email forms in order to document it to HR so then we can reopen those positions. And so we have to get that information from them so we can work within the parameters that we've been given.
The budget document also shows that in 2020, there was a $92,000 savings from the winter furloughs. Then it shows another $460,000 that was saved in, it's labeled additional golf personnel savings. I assume those were all maintenance workers?
I don't know if that was all of that was, it depends on how they put it into the budget. It's not all maintenance workers.
Where else, what other personnel are there that would have been reduced at that's a significant amount, $460,000.
So if I can step in a little bit, what I recall is a lot of that is some of our seasonal help. A lot of it is also some of our contracted help as well. So I think that's all added in of some of the savings that we gained during COVID.
So that's all restored in 2021?
Yes.
So there will be additional people hired to assist on maintenance in 2021 that were not there in 2020?
It's probably not additional people hired, but it's probably additional hours for those personnel.
Okay, thank you. Right. On the cart revenue is up significantly, and that's good news. Has that been offset by a greater expense because you're only allowing one person per cart, which puts a lot more, I would assume, fuel use and sanitizing work, all of that. Is there an expense item that you can identify as a result of COVID that would be needed to be subtracted from that cart rental to give you a true net?
There would be an increase in some fuel costs. The golf pros say it's about 100 gallons a week is what they're saying. We're allowing single rider carts. We're allowing double rider carts if two people want to ride together that came to the course together, rode together in the car or whatever, or their family members. They still can ride together. We have a large majority of people that, even though they're all congregating in the clubhouse following play and not practicing social distancing after they're done playing golf, they're still all riding single riders because they can. So yeah, it's costing us a little bit more, but nothing compared to what our increase in revenue is.
Okay. In the 2021 budget, is there any cost of living adjustments for salaries for across the board?
It would all be calculated in there, yes.
What is the cost of living increase and who gets it?
If I recall correctly, it's 1.35%, if I remember correctly.
And that's across the board for every employee?
For all city employees.
I'm sorry, what was it, 1 point what?
I do believe it's 1.75%. 1.75%.
Okay. This is related to the general fund or the park department generally. I looked at the salaries there, and I'm sure there's an explanation for this. It shows the director getting an increase and everybody else getting a decrease. There's an explanation there, I'm sure.
So I do not have control of what the budget puts in the book, what the budget department puts in the book. But just to let you know, I have not received a raise this year, and I won't receive a raise this year. So.
Well, it showed from 20 adopted to 20 revised. The director's salary went up 6,000. Everybody else's went down dramatically.
I wish that was the case. That would be nice.
Well, I'm looking at the numbers here, Troy. This is what the budget published. It said 2020 adopted was 146,692. It was revised up to 152,239, and that's carried forward to 2021.
So what the budget office does is they do that calculation for all the directors and all the positions moving forward. Again, I don't control what they put in the budget book, but I can personally tell you that the city manager has let us know, and I know this, that I'm not going to get a raise in 2020.
Are you familiar with what I'm looking at here in the budget document?
I am not. I don't have it in front of me, no.
Well, it shows like the accountant was 2020 adopted was 72,000. That drops to 56,000. The assistant recreation supervisor is a 55. That drops to 48. Management analysis is 59. That drops to 53. Everybody's salary drops except the department director. And again, I understand there may be a reason for this, but I'd like to know, I mean, it's your budget, so I would assume you're on top of that.
Well, most definitely. We have categories of where we spend our money for each one of our employees, and they take, every year everybody gets that opportunity to get a raise. It's all within our budget. We don't get to give anybody a raise unless it goes through our budget department. They're the ones that actually give us the green light to say whether we can do that or not.
Well, if you'd do me that favor for next month's meeting on page 191 of the budget volume 2, it shows those salaries. Department director going to 152 up from 146 and everybody else being reduced. Can you verify that that is in fact what happened? Are those folks taking a pay cut?
What I'll do is I'll let the budget office know, and I'll see what kind of response I could get from them.
That's what I don't quite understand. This is your department, Mr. Hauptman, and you should be, I would think, intimately familiar with who you're paying and what they're getting paid.
I do. I know exactly what everybody's getting paid.
So is this number accurate when they show for the accountant or the?
Off the top of my head, I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm looking at page 191 of the volume 2 of the budget.
Sure, I heard what you said, but like I said, off the top of my head, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what that number is. I can definitely find out what each one of my employees is currently making. A lot of times that doesn't exactly match what is going into the budget. I don't have control over that, what's placed into the budget book.
Well, this is what the public is looking at, and I assume what the council will adopt next Tuesday. So it seems to be important they be accurate numbers and reflective of what really is the case. Again, if you would verify that going forward, I would just like to call that attention to the board that these kind of numbers are important. And in our role as a park board in overseeing the budget, it would seem that we would pay attention to that. But on its face, it doesn't look right. There's something wrong here with these. The numbers go down so dramatically for everybody but the director. That doesn't look good on his face. But there, again, if there's a good reason, I'm happy to listen to that.
I guess I just want to kind of ask a big picture question. You know, is it possible to ask some of these questions in advance of the board meeting, Dale, so we can all have the benefit of looking at the budget in real time? Because it's hard to do a Zoom call and then also look at the city budget, and you're kind of getting in the weeds on a lot of these things that, again, this is where the question about the GAC versus the board, I guess I'm just not sure getting in the minutia of all of the golf operations. Is that board? Yes, the board should provide oversight, but to me, my inclination is that's a golf advisory committee. I'm not a golfer, so I'm not able to answer a lot of these questions outside of the budgetary ones. So I just wonder if you can ask those questions in advance, or should these be bumped to the GAC?
Well, this last one is about the park department generally, not the golf division.
Okay, but again, I think you've asked probably 15 questions.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I took 35 minutes talking about some trails through the parks, and that's great. A few minutes.
Your opinion is appreciated. I guess, you know, the introduction of a new item for consideration that enhances the park district is potentially more appealing to this park district commissioner than going through the minutia of golf once a month at your direction.
I'm talking about the budget of the park department overall, Troy, not just the.
Well, I'm tied. Again, my question is, can these questions be identified at the front end so in real time we can follow and have something to look at? Because a Zoom call doesn't provide that kind of opportunity unless we prepare for it.
Okay, that's fairly a fair point, and I will do that. I made my request for the upcoming meeting, and in anticipation of that, I will be more articulate of those specific questions prior to the next meeting.
And if I could add, I think, Dale, you've had access to our accountant. You worked with Emma on a lot of different golf questions. She's provided you a lot of information. So you can do the same thing in regards to any of the department budget questions that you might have. It's an open book. I don't have anything to hide. You're more than welcome to look at any of that stuff. And I think Emma can provide that to you. So you can work directly with her. She should be able to answer a lot of those questions for you. You know, once we get what your question is, we can get that back to you as quickly as possible.
All right, I'll submit that for the next meeting in advance for more clarity about what we're trying to accomplish here.
But again, like I mentioned, you can work directly with Emma, and she could provide those answers for you even ahead of the next meeting if that's something that you want to find out that information.
Well, I understand, Ty, that the concern about too much time being spent on some of these, but these are huge fiscal issues, and the park board has not been particularly engaged in that in the past. It seems like if we're going to spend time on this board, I want the big picture items dealt with first. The golf division is a $4 million enterprise fund. It's a huge part of the Parks Department, and the overall budget is a big deal that really didn't get much attention through this last several months. So again, if nobody's interested in that, that's fine. I guess that's up to every individual park board member to decide what their priorities are for being on this body. But the mission's pretty clear when it's described on the webpage as what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we step away from that mission. I'm just trying to suggest a process that allows us all to follow this conversation and weigh in appropriately. That's really all that I'm suggesting.
I appreciate that, and I will endeavor to meet that kind of expectation, not just dominate it in this fashion, but absent any other opportunity, this is what I thought that's what we were here for. So, but again, I'll look to do that before the next meeting.
Like I mentioned, you have the opportunity to work with Emma, with our staff, and we can answer those questions ahead of time for you, as long as we know what those questions are.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's go ahead and move forward to the Parks Foundation update with Troy.
All right, so we had a couple meetings in the past month and a half, and they got a lot of new members onto the Park Foundation, which is really kind of nice. They're looking at some new direction. They're trying to streamline some policies and procedures that they want to go through in regards to spending some of the Parks for Plates dollars. I did get a report back that says that we've collected close to, actually over $120,000 in the Plates for Parks dollars. So that's quite a bit that we're looking forward to spending on a capital project sometime in the next 3 to 6 months. Hopefully, we'll see how that works out. Other than that, they had a great retreat. I think they are starting to bond a little bit more and gather some momentum and streamlining their focus on what they want to accomplish for the rest of 2020, but especially doing something special in 2021.
Awesome. Are there any questions
Yeah,
for?
sure, I have a question.
Go ahead, Hoyt.
Yes, what happened to Red, White, and Boom? Who decided to take that project over?
So the Park Foundation had a discussion and said they're not interested in moving that forward in the future, and they're looking for somebody to see if they can operate that underneath that same umbrella. But so far, I don't think any other discussions have been taken on that project.
Thank you.
Anything else on the Parks Foundation? Any questions for Troy? See none. And we will move forward to O.J. Watson Park Committee update.
All right, so I think I shared this with you that our capital project there has been over budget, and we're looking at trying to find a way to reduce it. And actually, we're meeting with the architect tomorrow to look at some value engineering to see if we could get that back underneath the budget so we can still move forward with it. Other than that, I think O.J. Watson, they're doing a lot of really creative things out there, even though there's COVID restrictions and keeping them from meeting their potential. But I think they're trying to come up with some creative ideas out there. And a lot of people are still using our parks, and this is one of them. O.J. Watson is one of them that they're using quite a bit.
Awesome. Any questions on O.J. Watson? See none, and move forward to the Aquatics Master Plan update.
Not much has changed. We're still trying to finish the design work for phase 2. What I'd like to do is next month, Brian doesn't know this, Brian Hill, but I think I'm going to invite him to the next park board meeting so he could give an update. There is construction going on, a lot of construction fences around all the projects that's going on. As I cruise by and look at them and inspect to see what's going on, there's not as much work as I thought would be going on, but I'm sure there's a reason why. So I think to get a really detailed report back, I'm going to ask Brian Hill to come to the next park board meeting next month and give a really good background of everything that's going on, a really good report.
Okay, awesome. Any questions there for Troy? I don't have a president's update, so we'll move forward to the director's update.
This time of year, we usually start looking at an opportunity to go to the national conference, but It's going to be online or it's going to be virtual. And I don't think we have anybody who's, actually, I take that back. We have 3 people that are going to attend the virtual conference. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot going on. We're going to be finalizing the budget tomorrow, I think, through the council meeting. And I do have one piece of information that this is probably a little bit premature, but I just want to share this with you guys. It's probably going to be coming out, but we will be canceling the youth football season. Actually, not canceling, but postponing it until the spring. So we'll be getting that information out to all of those folks. The players and coaches don't know this yet. So you guys are the first ones to hear this, but we'll be informing them in the next day or 2, and you'll probably see a press release on that as well.
Troy, I have a question. The statewide recreation park and rec convention, if that's going to be online, is that free?
I don't think it's going to be free, and that's usually at the end of January, beginning of February. So that's going to be virtual as well. There is going to be a fee for that, but I don't know what that fee is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Troy, did you want to share anything on the CLAP master plan, the Facebook Live event coming up this Thursday?
Yes, thank you very much. So moving forward with the conversion of the park, CLAP Park, we do have a online live Facebook town hall meeting on Thursday. It starts at 5 o'clock. We'll be getting some information out probably tomorrow. So hopefully you guys could at least watch it, if not participate. And we do have 3 concepts that we're looking at, very, very preliminary. This whole project is very technical. We're talking about some water features, which would have an impact from the stream. We'd be working with the Corps of Engineers, but it's very, very technical. So a lot of this stuff that we're looking at is very, very preliminary. They're very much in draft form, but we wanted to get some feedback from the community as we start looking at some of these designs. So thanks for the reminder.
Troy, that's on Facebook, you said?
Yeah, it's going to be on Facebook Live.
I also have one question. Can you provide any updates on Cypress Park? I think several of us have been contacted about an initiative to save Cypress Park. And can you just update us on, I know the Planning Commission also reviewed this project, and I think it's going back to City Council now. So can you just apprise us of any changes that have been made since we reviewed the project earlier this year?
So I don't have a whole lot of details. I do believe that when the police department went back for design, they had some requirements in regards to their parking lot and some of the entryways. So I do believe that configuration changed. I do not have the details. So it's pretty much been an initiative that has been directed by the police department. We can definitely ask them to come back and give you guys an update of what the design is going to look like there at Cypress Park.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because I had heard that the footprint of the substation had enlarged a bit since we initially saw it. So I'd just like to sort of better know what that's going to look like and its impact on the rest of the park, really.
Most definitely. I will definitely ask the police department to see if they could come back in with their consultant, share what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Troy, I had another question as well. Thank you, Ty, for bringing up Cypress Park. This question was more related to the pool designing process. I think you mentioned that they were designing phase 2 right now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are they doing any like community outreach or getting the perspectives of the community to understand what it is that they're hoping to see from these public pools?
Alejo, we've done that already. And what I mean by design, they're coming up with the final blueprints. They're coming up with the finer points of the gallons per minute, the exact places where the sprays are going to be going. It's the really fine, minute design points. So the conceptuals have already been done. The themes have already been done. They're just placing that into the final design so we can get that out to bid.
Perfect. Thank you, Troy.
Yep.
Troy, would it be possible for the next meeting to get a report on the dog parks? I know it's never been a part of this agenda. When I'm not playing golf, I'm walking my dog in the dog park. There are a lot of folks who are very interested in that. Would it be possible to get some kind of overview of what we've done, what's on the table going forward, and what opportunities there might be to enhance that service?
Most definitely I can do that. It's pretty simple, but I'll put it into a PowerPoint. We have several dog parks already. I think there's been some ideas about certain locations to add new dog parks. I could share that with you. We've actually put together a master plan of locations that we wanted to explore, but we do not have any funding. So the idea of actually putting things in place all is a contingent in regards to whether they're donations or finding some other types of funding. So, but yeah, I could put a little PowerPoint together for that.
Thank you. And lastly, there was discussion of the Golf Advisory Committee attendance issue that was going to be resurrected in some fashion. Where did that go, and where are we at with that issue of Golf ACE or the GAC membership?
So what we did was we sent 2 registered letters to 2 individuals that have not attended the meetings. One, I did see an email come back that they were not interested in continuing to stay on the committee, and we have not heard back from the second. And I think the deadline is actually later on this week before we can take action. So we will, once we get that information, we'll share that with our park board president.
Would that be on the agenda for next month as well?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were unmuted. This is Beth Harlinski. Yes, because the actual board has to take certain actions depending upon, evidently we have heard back from the one, I wasn't aware of that, but depending upon what the second member responds, you still have to have a board action removing them. And I don't know if those of you whose reps these 2 people are will be ready to make a new appointment, but if you want seamless coverage, that probably should be done next week or next month too.
Okay.
Could you hear that?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Is there anything else that we need to put on next month's agenda that we haven't already talked about? See none, and this meeting will adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
You too.